Hi, I'm Kim Marie with the Evolutionary Astrology Network, and today I've been speaking to Patricia Walsh here at the UAC conference in Denver, spring of 2008. And so Patricia is a student of evolutionary astrology, and she's also the trainer and certifier of the deep memory process. So we're going to talk to her about both of these today. So welcome, Pat. Thank you.
Hi, thank you, Kim. Nice to be here.
You bet. So explain to us, what is deep memory process and what is your work that you do?
Okay, well, deep memory process is a technique that was developed by Roger Wolger, who is a Jungian. He's considered one of the pioneers internationally in the field of regression as a therapy. His book, Other Lives, Other Selves, is considered a seminal work in the field. And I started training with him in 2000, and after that we formed a professional partnership, so I'm now the chief trainer of all of the US programs, as well as have a very active private practice and have been doing the work since then. Deep memory process is, in one form, you can look at it as if it's past life regression, and I think that's something that most people understand, past life regression, but it's much more comprehensive than that. Mm-hmm. So, for myself, I have to say synchronistically, as if there are such things as synchronicities, that I came across Roger's work and Jeffrey Wolf Green's work at the same time.
Oh, wow.
Well, I came across Jeffrey's work in the mid-90s, and when I first read the Pluto book, I said, this is it, I don't need to go any further. I had always been interested in all of the psychological forms of astrology, Liz Green's and Stephen Ario. I always say his name wrong. And when I saw Jeffrey's work, I said, this is it, because I had already been working in shamanic modes of healing, which deal a lot with core wounds to the soul, and dealing with soul fragmentation, as shamans call it, and soul loss, either through present or past life purposes. So I'd already been working that way, and when I read the core work of the evolutionary astrology as we know it today, Pluto, the Pluto book, I mean, it was all right there. These are the core wounds to the soul. And, you know, the understanding is, of course, just like we understand in the Scorpio archetype, there's a depth and there's a cathartic descent that all of us need to go through to embrace those wounds, but there's a resurrection in the same process, you know, very much it's the highest and the lowest. So for me, it's exactly what I have encountered in my experience in working with wounds to the soul. That we make this descent, we make this kind of Persephone descent into Hades, right? Yes. And then we have the ability to resurrect and reach the highest of the highs.
So you're taking your work with deep memory process and your studies of evolutionary astrology, and from the EA perspective, you're taking that karmic dynamic and
yes.
that evolutionary intent, as we know it, with Pluto in the nodes, and you're just bringing it to life. Archetypically.
Well, here's what I found that's fascinating. To me, this was fascinating. So as I started to study the evolutionary astrology paradigm and worked with, at that point, it was maybe several hundred regressions. Now I'm several thousand into it. I started to notice that because evolutionary astrology has very unique rules about the nodes and how they can be modified and what that means from the soul's experience. And as I started working with charts and people's actual regressions, I noticed that everything that the evolutionary astrology paradigm teaches, such as squares to the nodes, how that modifies the reincarnational aspect of what the soul's experience has been, planets conjuncting nodes, opposing nodes, all of the very special, unique rules of evolutionary astrology, which changed how we understand the karmic axis or have understood it. You know, evolutionary astrology is a big departure from the traditional understanding. I noticed from the charts and the people's actual regressions that what evolutionary astrology describes is exactly how people's past life stories emerge. Mm-hmm. And the very core issues that are contained within Pluto and the nodes, and then all of those special modifications, show up exactly that way in regression therapy.
All right.
So for me, it was fascinating, and I kept copious notes. I kept and I was only doing it for my own studies. And then recently, I'd say within the last 3 years, somebody said to me, well, you know, you've got like hundreds of cases. It's like, why don't you write a book?
Write a book.
And it was like, bing! So I did.
Which is going to be published next year?
Next year.
2009?
Supposedly it's supposed to come out in fall of 2009.
All right,
And
congratulations.
it's on evolutionary astrology and past lives. And it is about the, again, when I say actual, I use actual regressions because I use that in quotes because we have to understand that do we know if past lives are actual or not? My personal belief is, of course, they are, and I have proof over proof, but I don't want to, you know, to do the work or to foster healing for the soul, one does not necessarily need to believe in the actuality of past lives. They only need to be open to it even as a metaphor.
Yes.
You know, and
Yes.
because the language of the soul is a symbolic, imaginational language. And so you can heal the soul through that. So when I say actual past lives. But the book is case after case of people's actual past life experiences as they arose in regression therapy compared to the chart.
All right. I know you have also a workshop coming up this fall that is going to be designed for students and astrologers with evolutionary astrology, combining it with deep memory process. Why don't you give us dates, a little bit of information if people are interested in that.
Okay, thank you. I've been teaching that workshop once a year for about, I think, 4 years now. And that particular workshop is our basic deep memory process training, which is a basic certification in regression therapy, combined with the understanding of evolutionary astrology in a basic level. These are the archetypes, and these are how the archetypes express themselves in past life experiences. So the particular workshop is October 2nd through 7th.
October 2nd through 7th.
It's a
right
5-day
now,
workshop.
2008.
Yes, it's a 5-day workshop in Windham, New York. It's residential, very intensive workshop. It's geared to astrologers to learn regression therapy, so it combines both of those paradigms.
All right. What's your website?
My website is www.healthepast.com.
Healthepast.com. Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I like that.
Because isn't that why we're all here?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Most definitely. Well, one more question for you. Obviously, the people who are watching you right now, they're visiting evolutionaryastrology.net, and they might be interested in the world of evolutionary astrology. How's it helped you, and anything you'd say to any of our audience who are checking us out?
Well, evolutionary astrology is such a unique form of astrology. I would say that it's the deepest psychological understanding that one can have, or one can gain the deepest psychological understanding. And when I use the term psychological, I'm not talking about clinical psychology, I'm talking about psyche, which is the nature of the soul.
Right.
And I think that evolutionary astrology for me has not only, and I know several hundred of my own past lives, that of course my chart illustrates. So it's not only the validation of my own personal journey, but it's a map of the soul, and I don't think any other paradigm gives you that depth of analysis and of a map of the soul.
Oh, beautiful. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Thank you.